This is Guy, and this is So Meta.
So meta.
One thing that you said is that when you left prison, and I think this is something that a lot of people will be able to relate to because I think it's the same in most countries of the world. There isn't really an infrastructure that helps people that have been into the prison system into be rehabilitated to life outside prison. And life outside prison, sometimes it becomes harder than life in prison because you don't have the support you need. People don't relate to your struggle. A lot of the time, people look at you in a bad way because they think, oh, you've been to prison, you must be bad. And life becomes really a challenge for those that have left prison. I know in America it's like that. Definitely in the UK it's like that. What do you think is helpful to know about how to restart life after prison?
Luca, you've really touched on a subject that is so sorely missing for people to have when they come home. Let's go back to what you said a second ago. There is a stigma when a person walks out of prison. I know, if you were to look at my websites, and I know you have, I'm very free about where I was. I don't hide that. The guys that I was in prison with, the doctors, the attorneys, the accountants, the businessmen, I mean, there were every walk of life. They would say to me, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out of prison. I can't go back to what I did before. My life is over. Your life is over when you close your eyes for the last time. One of the analogies, and I want to answer it this way. One of the analogies that I identify with, if anybody has ever seen the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, and there was a part in there where he's been taken captive and he's living in this village, and he decides that he wants to duel with I don't know what's called technically with the sticks, I'll call them. And one of the samurais, just beats him senseless with this pole. And what I loved about it, that made the movie when I seen it, is even though he was laying bleeding, literally bleeding on the ground, beaten up, senseless, he grabbed a hold of that stick and he still kept trying to fight, with them. That's I think the way we all have to be. I think we have to realize that no matter what happens, you still have to fight. You cannot give up. And this happens, unfortunately, with people when they come out of prison. They give up. As I said a minute ago, the white collar guys had it very difficult in the respect that they couldn't go back to the careers that they had. A doctor would say to me, I don't know what I'm going to do. I studied all of those years and I can't be a doctor anymore. And I said, no, wait a minute. They didn't take away the knowledge that you had. They may have taken the license away. And yeah, maybe your reputation got dinged, but you still know what it's like to be a doctor. You still have that knowledge. And I told them, I said, I'm part of the baby boom generation. And baby boomers do not want to get old. Most of them don't anyway. I know I don't. I'm older, but I keep myself in good shape. But my point is that, when a doctor comes out of prison, and I said this to a few of these guys, start a clinic. You have doctors work for you. You don't have to pay them. Just do it as, whatever they get. But you're a doctor. You know what to do. I said, you can have people working for you that have these clinics, where these rejuvenation clinics, I forgot what the name of what they're called, but they get supplements and they get all the tests done and everything. And the thing is that you can do better now than you did before because you're not constrained with a license. And they would look at me like, oh, you're nuts. The thing is that when you get out of prison, you have to be very creative. You have to have an imagination.
Hi, this is Luca from So Meta. I want to talk to you about the paid partner of this episode, BetterHelp. I've been in therapy for most of my life, since I was a child really. The benefits of therapy are so profound and really help us live better lives. That's why I chose to become a therapist myself, to help others. But therapists also go to therapy, and when I need to talk things through with a professional, I choose BetterHelp. When my mom had cancer, I needed to talk to someone to unravel my thoughts, my worries. I was traveling a lot and I spent a lot of my time commuting, or I spent it with her. looking after her, supporting her. That meant I was away from my home, from my friends, from my routine. My life was on hold, and I didn't have a support system for myself. That's why BetterHelp was the best choice for me at that time. All I needed was my phone or my laptop and access to the internet. I didn't need to travel to someone's office. I didn't have to scroll through endless directories, and I didn't have to break the bank either. After a short questionnaire, BetterHelp matched me with a credentialed therapist based on my preferences within 48 hours, which is usually how long it takes to get matched. But if for whatever reason you want to change therapist, you can do so with a click. It's that easy. I love that I could book and manage my appointments based on my schedule. And I could even access group therapy sessions that are organized by topic. BetterHelp made it easier for me to look after myself when I was looking after my mom. If you need support, let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist. Visit betterhelp.com/SoMeta or use the code SoMeta and enjoy a special discount. And now, back to the show.
And, I had a guy that I knew actually was my wife's ex-wife's cousin. And he said he had been in prison. He had for identity theft. He was almost incorrigible. This particular guy kept getting in trouble. And he said to me, he said, when I talk to somebody and I get to be friends with them, when they find out I was in prison, they don't want to have anything to do with me. And I said to him, I said, well, what you need to do is not say, hey, my name is Joe Smith. I just got out of prison, but don't hide from it neither. You might want to say, I had to learn my lesson the hard way or whatever, because when you hide from that, and I'm answering your question in a couple of ways, when you hide from that, you look sketchy. Because, what else are you hiding, But the other thing is that, for me, people that deal with me know up front, this is what I went through. And, but one of the problems is, especially here in the United States, is if you're a black guy and you go to apply for a job, if the HR person or the person that's interviewing you is a white guy, I'm just being real here. They're thinking in many cases, this guy probably is a drug dealer and he's probably been in prison. So they've already got that stigma, and they may not have done either one, but they've already got that stigma. Now you say, well, yeah, I was in prison, and there's menial jobs out there. But I'm telling you, this sounds bitter, and I'm not. I'm just stating a fact. Prison and the system in the United States, which is the only one I can identify with, sets you up for failure. In the prison system, they do not teach you how to live the life when you get out. There's a halfway house, there's probation, there's all of these things. But how do I live? How do I live? The thing is that when a person comes out of prison, in many cases, they've been in for many, many years. I was blessed because, my family stood by me. I knew a lot of guys that their families didn't. They were mad that for whatever reason, wanted anything to do with them. A guy that was in prison 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, that family's probably been long gone. So when this guy comes home, if he's able to come home, or woman the same way, he comes home to nothing. And, I would say to guys, here in the U.S., I don't know what it's called in the U.K., but here in the U.S., we have Social Security, which does, if as you've been working, the government forced you as part of your deductions to put money aside into Social Security. You paid it to the government. And then when you retired, you could start collecting that, usually at 62, but, whatever. Well, and I would say this to some of the guys, I don't know what I'm going to do when I go home. I don't have any money. I said, well, you can maybe get something from Social Security. They say, Gino, I was a drug dealer all my life. I never contributed. I never worked for a regular business. Now, you talk about a guy that's behind the eight ball. When he gets out, he's got nothing. And I can't tell you how many people get in trouble again because they don't know anything better. There's nothing there to help them to make money. And, if somebody is living, let's say they're flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, and they're maybe making $300 a week or $400 a week, that's barely nothing. And the problem is that now one of the guys that they used to know from the neighborhood says, hey, you know what, why don't you take this package down to, down south and give you $35,000. What do you think the guy's going to do? People are set up for failure when they come out of prison. And that's one of the things that we do with Prisonecology is to help them overcome that. It's like the starfish, that story about the starfish that, all the starfish wash up to the shore and the little girl is taking each one and throwing them back in. And somebody says, well, why are you doing that? There's so many of them there. What difference does it make? And she says, well, it does make a difference to the starfish that I'm throwing back in. And that's the way we have to look at it, that each individual person that we're dealing with, we're helping them. Yeah, we may not be able to help everybody else, but at least we can have an impact on that person's life and try to prevent them from going back into prison. Because the recidivism, which is what it's called here in the U.S., the recidivism of people going back to prison, from what I understand, is about 60%. I've heard higher, 70%, but from the statistics that I've seen, it's about 60%. So that means that out of every 10 people that come out of prison, 6 of them end up going back at one time or another in their life. Now, that's crazy, because you don't want to go to prison. I mean, I don't know anybody that says, you know what, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because, one of these days I'm going to hopefully end up in prison. Nobody wants that. But the thing is that they're set up for failure when they come home. And those are something that has to be addressed here in the United States.
Yes. Look, in the UK too, I heard people that actually don't know how to function in society because they are set up for failure. And they're like, okay, well, if I go back to prison, then I'm going to have a roof over my head, a bed where I can sleep, and I'm going to have 3 meals a day. And at least I got that. But outside prison, they don't know how to make that work and make that happen. And it's sad. It's a sad thought that we send these people away so they can learn from their mistakes. And then, we don't actually give them anything to work with. So
Luca,
it's mad. It's a mad system.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Luca, I actually seen this. What I'm going to tell you, I seen with my own eyes. Did you ever see the movie The Shawshank Redemption?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's a movie that takes place here in the U.S., obviously, and one of the guys in the movie an old man. He's an old man, gets out of prison after many, many years, after 50 years, and he's just not comfortable in society. That's all he knew. He becomes what happens is institutionalized, and it began to start happening with me too. That I was used to the same routine all the time. That's why it was difficult, especially those first few days, coming back home. But I seen this, what I'm about to tell you, with my own eyes. There was a gentleman, older man, that was due to be released. He had been in prison for about 24 years. He went to the case manager and pleaded not to go home. Was crying. He didn't want to go home because he didn't know life anymore. That's all he knew was prison life. And, when you mentioned a minute ago about having the roof over your head and so on, when you're in prison, as long as you behave or don't get caught messing around, it's more like it. You've got a roof over your head, as you mentioned. You've got 3 meals a day. You've got, your buddies there that you can interact with and play cards and do whatever you're doing. You don't have any really cares. Many people give up on their families. The families give up on them, but they give up on their families as well. And they don't care anymore. The thing is that when you're like that, you become institutionalized. That's all you know. Yeah, I just know these 4 walls. That's all I know. And I not only seen people cry that they didn't want to go home, I actually heard with my own ears a couple of guys saying, that we're getting ready to leave, like within a day or two. Well, I'll be back. I've got a couple of years. I can do another 5 years in me. And I was like, you got to be kidding. But sometimes, even though, nobody starts out that they want to go to prison, as I mentioned before, in their life, sometimes that's all that a person knows. And, they begin to think and have that prison mentality. And, and it's very difficult if they've got that prison mentality of I'm going to get mine, I don't care what. They take that attitude to the outside. That's really bad, because I knew guys, and I had a run-in with one of them that had a big mouth and he just wouldn't shut up. He was just annoying to everybody. And I told him, I said, when you get out of here, and we weren't buddies by any stretch, but I told him, when you get out of here, and he would be leaving someday, I said, you're either going to get shot or you're going to be back in prison. I said, because with that attitude, you're going to end up one of those two ways. Not that I certainly wish that on anybody, but, things are what they are. And, some people that get out of prison really are not qualified to get out of prison and have, society to have to deal with them. But, those are why people like that are why prisons were created, not to just go throwing everybody in there because, people for me were owed money. What good was that going to do throwing me in prison? The fairness, a fair judge would have said, you're going to go home and you're going to work and you're going to pay everybody back. That's justice. Not, giving me 3 square meals a day and, a roof over my head. The whole system is wrong.
What was that going to fix?
It didn't do anything. And people, and you've heard the cliche that people go to prison to become worse than they were before. And that's true. I've seen it. They become worse or they do become criminals. I've seen an attorney that became a thug. I mean, he walked in, he was, wide-eyed, didn't know anything about anything. By the time he left, he had truly become a thug, which I was stunned to see, but I seen it. So, these things happen. But there's no instructions in prison that are helping people when they get out. And they say there are, but, I know better.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this forever. And I mean, if there was one word of advice you could give to either people coming out of prison or recently came out of prison or their families, what would you say to them to, give them a chance in life?
Wow, that's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that before. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't give up. Because when you give up, that's when you fail. You may not get the job of your dreams right away. You may not have the family that you had thought that you were going to have. But don't give up on yourself. Find a church. If you're a religious person, find a mosque, find a temple, find a place that you can go and find people that at least are limited in their judgments of you. And they, the compassion that we all have, and we all have it, will kick in to people, and they will reach out to try to help you. But if you think you're going to go it alone, and I'm going to show them, and I'm bitter, and I'm mad, they did that, and the man did this to me, and I never get a break, I'm black, or I'm Italian, nobody likes Italians, and or whatever the case may be. You start becoming a victim, you're going to be a victim for the rest of your life. Don't be a victim. I guess I can't, Luca, answer your question in one way, except if you said, no, you got to say one word, don't give up.
That's it, because when society don't believe in you and they give up on you, then you tend to give up on yourself as well. And if you do that, then obviously you expose yourself to trouble. You surrender yourself to be taken advantage of.
Luca, if I could just say this really quickly, before, when I was talking about, the doctors continuing to do what they did, even though they don't have their license, or the attorney, or whatever the case is, I did the same thing. So it's not like do as I say, don't do as I do. After I came home, and I was home for a few years, people were asking me, what do you think is going to go on with the stock market? What's going on with the market? And, I really started looking at things again because I was kind of not in the mood to do it. Although I did help people in prison, the staff. That's a whole nother story. But we can get into maybe another time that I actually helped the staff, in the investment world. But anyway, I started thinking about it. And as you can tell by now, I try to be a faith-filled person. So I went and prayed about this, and I kept getting this feeling, why don't you do a newsletter? I really don't want to do it. I'm mad. I can't do the business I did anymore. Yeah, but you can't take the knowledge that you had away from yourself. So I remember one particular day, it was back in August, actually, of 2022. And I thought, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do this. So what I started doing, actually the date was August the 21st of 2022. I started doing a weekly newsletter of what I call a market update. And what I did, that website, by the way, I did create a website, and I give market advice every week. I give midweek market alerts if something's going on in the market that people should know. But I remembered as a broker that so many people never heard from their broker. They didn't even have enough money. They didn't know, they weren't repeat buyers, and it's a whole nother topic that we could venture to another time. But when I began this newsletter, I was, really of the mind that I was going to help the people that worked at the retail stores, like the Walmarts and whatever. And the thing is that nobody ever pays attention to them. They have a 401k, which is what a retirement plan is called here in the U.S., a 401k that they could put their money into, and probably are. But they have no idea what they don't know anything, because nobody's ever taught them how to look at the markets themselves. So when they originally got hired, they were told you got to put money into your 401k, whether it's $20 a week or whatever it is. And they look at I don't know, that looks like a nice name. That looks like a nice name. I'll put in both of these. So every week or every 2 weeks or every month, however they're paid, money is going into an account that they have no idea about. And when the market goes up, they make money. When the market goes down, they lose money. Well, my idea is that if I'm creating this newsletter, it's for people like that. I charge $200 a year for a subscriber. And what they can do is they look every Monday morning, see what they have, a synopsis of what went on in the markets the previous week. I have a commentary there that what I think is going on at the present time. It's a pretty long newsletter. And I also give advice or guidance, or whatever you want to call it, as to where to put the money in at that present time. So, the thing is that my whole philosophy when I was as a broker, as a registered investment advisor, is I was willing to take small losses with my clients' money to avoid big losses. Because most people, the market goes up, they make money. As I mentioned, the market goes down, they lose any of the profits or whatever. So the thing is that what I did is I put this newsletter together. It's online every week. Again, if things change during the week, with the investments that I've suggested that they have their money in, if they should pull it out, if there should be something else that they should put it in, that they get a midweek market alert. And that website is marketwatch.gainwisdom.com. It's marketwatch.gainwisdom, G-A-N-E, wisdom.com. I also, as you know, Luca, I also wrote a book last year called Manage Money, An Avenue to Wealth. It's available on Amazon as an ebook. And of course, my other 2 books are available on Amazon as well. Or actually, what I do here, which is the reason I put this plug in, by the way, I tell the first 10 people, if they'd like to get a copy of my ebook, Manage Money, that they can write to me at guy@gainwisdom.com, and I'll send them out a copy for free. So I make that available. Also, if anybody buys my books because of, their viewing us today, I give back to you as the host 15% of the book sales, because that way you can either donate it to charity, or you can use it for your podcast to further what you're doing. So
that's amazing. That's very, very generous. Thank you so much. So tell us again the titles of your books.
Okay. The first book that came out is called Unchained and Unbroken: Life Lessons and Strength Training from a Jailhouse Gym Rat. That particular book, I have some things that went on in prison that aren't really bad, so you don't have to worry that somebody's not going to like it. But I also put in there instructions to how to get healthy. It's one of the things I really, really strive to do while I was away. And I knew from my previous life as well. Talk about supplements, about diet, about many, many different things about health in there and how to get healthy. I did it myself. I know what happened, because I gained a ton of weight when I stopped working out, got very unhealthy, actually had a heart attack before I went to prison. And I got myself very, very back in shape, got strong again. And while I was writing that book, I thought, if I'm going to write a book about health and about fitness training, I really should know what I'm talking about, even though I thought I did. So I decided to take a correspondence course, and I became a certified fitness trainer while I was in prison as well. So that book, Unchained and Unbroken: Life Lessons and Strength Training from a Jailhouse Gym Rat, gives different exercises from all the way from somebody who's just beginning all the way to advanced. My second book is Chrysalis: Awakening to God's Path, Protection and Power in Your Life, which we spoke about earlier. And then the ebook that I just mentioned, Manage Money, An Avenue to Wealth, gives all of the, in very, very easy English, all of the things that I did as a money manager, how to manage your own money, the signs to look for, the signals to look for, and how to read charts and all of those different things. Very, very easy to read. And people that have read it have told me, actually with all 3 of my books, they're not they're not hard to read at all. I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you. And that's really the way I wrote my books. And right now I'm writing another one as we're
I
speaking.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that the links will be in the description box.
Okay, that'd be great.
Before we move on to the last section, I want to ask another, it's a loaded question. So you can take all the time you need to answer that. But I believe that once you've been sentenced, it must have been on an emotional and mental level devastating for you, for your family, for everyone involved. And then obviously having to learn all of these things by yourself because you didn't really have a guide. You had a guide that you thought would help you, but actually you got scammed. So it went from bad to worse in a way. How did you get over that? How did you stay strong, and how did you get through it?
I would have to say, well, and I'm not guessing at this. I know how it is. It's, my faith in God, my belief that in every adversity, and I know this sounds corny, but in every adversity, there's a lesson to be learned. And if you listen, if you keep your eyes open, if you stay aware, you always learn from your mistakes. And I was able to get through it because I just really felt that I didn't have the choice of giving up. I wanted to prove that I didn't do what I was accused of doing. And my biggest goal, and I know that sometimes I've even gotten flack back from my own family members that think I'm nuts. My investors in my company lost a lot of money, over $5 million. They would have gotten paid, as I mentioned earlier. They would have gotten that money back had the government not come in, because it was ready to come in. Those people, as a broker, I used to say this, and I say this still. It's easier to make money than it is to save it. Those people took their money and saved it. And it was very difficult, and now they lost it. And my biggest goal is to make sure that they get that money back. Now, I say that people think I'm nuts, and they do. I'm just being candid. Because they've told me, Guy, you went to prison. They got what they wanted, and that was your blood. That's not what they wanted. They wanted justice. They were only told there was one way to get that, and that was by throwing the key away on me, which is what they did. It was unfair to them, not to me. Those are the people that really suffered. I'm back. I had those 3 square meals a day. They weren't very good, but I still had them. I had a roof over my head. I was taken care of. Those people worked hard to get the money that they saved and that they gave to our company. And it wasn't me that lied to them, because the people that had invested because I had asked them to personally, they actually came to court and said, Mr. Gane never lied to us. We knew exactly. I mean, he never lied. The court didn't want to hear that. They had their own narrative, and that's the way it was going to go. The thing is that, when you try to wrap your head around that day that I had gotten the sentence, my wife, who by the way, I hold nothing against, she was a wonderful person. I ended up having a nervous breakdown a year and a half after I was in prison. For her own sake, we had to part ways. But the thing is that she fainted when literally fainted, and a good friend of mine who's a pastor was next to her and was able to take care of her. My children, my oldest son is a movie actor, and with the same name as me. He was blackballed in the industry for years because of our names being similar. My second son ended up having to go bankrupt. The thing is that I have 2 boys and a girl, but it's unfair what they do to the families. But that was me. Let me give you another scenario. You got a kid who lives in the inner city, and his father's taken away and put into prison. Where does he find acceptance? Generally in the street. He's going to find it getting in a gang, getting with a group, getting involved with all the wrong things that are going on in life just to survive. Mom isn't making any money. Mom has her own problems over there. That kid is going to get lost. And, I can tell you over and over again where the places that I was at. Grandpa was there. Dad was there. Junior was there, because it became a life habit. It was weird to see the corrections officer saying, "Oh, yeah, hey, Freddie, I knew your dad. Oh, yeah, my dad said to say hello to you," because he was in prison. Or I seen your grandfather used to be here. Yeah, Grandpa told me I should say hello when he's seen you. That's pathetic. So, as I said before, Luca, that this system is set up for failure. When you take the bread earner away, now even my stepchildren, because this was my second marriage, my stepchildren were younger. They were my stepdaughter, and I adored both of those children like my own, literally. She was 13 when I went away, and my stepson was 15, and they were ostracized because of me. Now they wanted to take my name. I wouldn't let them, because I knew what would happen, but people still knew. And where's your dad? How come he's not here? Because they tried to keep it quiet as much as they could. Well, you have to tell them. Daddy went away. Daddy's in prison, and immediately, hey, you know what? Mr. Gaines' daughter said that he had to go to prison. Oh, really? Now there's a whole series of problems that happen with the children. So it's the children, it's the family, but especially the children that suffer. Because when that person goes away, nobody's there to fix the gutters, as I mentioned earlier. Nobody comes over and says, hey, your house needs to be painted. Let me help. Nobody comes over and fixes anything around the house because they're ostracized. And, if we're being real here, they make movies out about this kind of stuff. Now, my wife was a beautiful girl. And, guys are guys, and they knew that, Mr. Gane wasn't around anymore. And I'll leave it at that. But, but the thing is that, it's difficult to wrap your head around these things if it's you. My reputation was damaged, not beyond control, but almost. I'm able to build it back up again and have been doing that. But, your reputation is destroyed. Your money is gone, as it happened with me. I don't know if you'd ever seen the movie Wall Street, but there was a part in Wall Street, and I remember seeing it when it came to the theaters many years ago. There was a part that I didn't understand, but the girl said it was better to never have made money than to have made money and have it all taken away. And, I can attest that that's true. To have to put things back when you go to a grocery store because you can't afford it is not only embarrassing, it's sad. It's a very, very difficult transition for everybody involved.
This podcast is brought to you by LucaMindCoach. As a therapist, I understand that talking therapy isn't everyone's first choice. But I also understand the impact of listening to other people's stories and how these can give us the strength and inspiration to find our own solutions for ourselves. And this is why I started So Meta. And for those of you who want to learn how to manage stress and some relaxation techniques, I created a quick self-paced workshop you can do in your own time. Take advantage of a special 20% discount and really learn how to manage stress for less than $40. Use the code SOMETA20, link in the description box.
I think the most difficult transition is for the family because now dad isn't around anymore. They get a letter home from me. It's about blazing on there, federal prison. So now the mailman knows something is amiss here because the kid's getting a letter from prison. As I said, my oldest son was ostracized out of his business for a few years because of the relationship, and it really hurt him too. But you know what? The government doesn't care. And, even when they would take food in the prisons and not let you get more food, it's very minimal what you get fed there. And, you would ask for something more. Wait, could you just put that, get going, because they feel, some of the guards, not all of them, but some of the correction officers feel that you're not only there in prison as punishment, but now I need to punish you. You're supposed to go to prison for punishment, as punishment, not to be punished. And unfortunately, that happens too. There's so many idiosyncrasies that go on in a person's life and in their family's lives because of what has happened. Again, as I mentioned very early at the top of the show, it would have been much easier to do the time for me personally, if I was actually guilty of the crime, because I could have said, well, you dummy, you shouldn't have done what you did. But to know day after day after day after day after day that I'm in here for something I didn't do. And I'm not going to lie to you, Luca, that first night I went to prison, I cried. I put the shirt over my face and sobbed. And I swore at God and called him every filthy name you could think of, because I said, of all of the beings in this universe, you and I both know the truth, and you still let me come here. Because I mentioned before I had a heart attack. I actually died. They brought me back with the paddles. And this had been a couple of months after the government had come in. And when I had gone to prison, a couple of days later, I had to go to medical. And I was talking to a doctor who was examining me. And he said, I noticed, Mr. Gane, because I had my medical record sent there. He said, I noticed you'd had a heart attack. I said, yeah, I did. He said, I noticed that they brought you back with the defibrillators. I said, yeah. He said, I was a cardiologist on the outside. He said, I retired, but I do contract work now for the government. He says, he said, the defibrillators don't work all the time. I said, oh, really? He said, actually, they work less than 2% of the time. I said, you're kidding. I thought that they worked all the time.
You deserve so much respect for not just going through this with so much dignity and trying to make something out of you, out of this soul-crushing story, but also to help other people. I think you're really doing something special, and you're giving a lot of people opportunities when perhaps society doesn't give them enough. So thank you for your work, because I think it's very valuable.
Well, Luca, as I've always said, if I could just help one person, really, really help them and affect their lives, then that was a good thing. Then all of this may have been worth, I don't know. Actually, going through what I did was pretty tough, but there's been a lot of people who have done through a lot more than I did. And I before we go, as a broker, I was so lucky because I had clients that of course this goes back to the 70s, guys that had served in World War II, soldiers. My dad, for instance. And, I was able to deal with people that had been in the war, American soldiers. I was able to deal with German soldiers that had emigrated to the United States and heard their stories. I was able to talk to Holocaust survivors that became clients of mine. And it was those guys that I thought about when I was in prison. And when I would start feeling bad for myself, I would think about them and think about, what do you have to complain about? Look at what they went through. And I remember, I had a group of them that over the years that had been clients of mine, and I would hear their stories, and it was horrific. It was horrific. And I remember when my oldest son, Guy, was in 8th grade, I asked a couple of the guys, they were studying history of World War II. And I asked a couple of my clients if they wouldn't mind coming to the school and, sharing their experiences. And they did. A couple of them did. And so I went with them. And I'll never forget, they told their story and so on, and very nicely, if there's such a way to explain that horror. But one of the little girls I'll remember in his class raised her hand and said, do you hate the German people for what they did to you? And he said, I don't hate anybody. He said, I forgave Hitler many, many years ago, because if I wouldn't have forgiven Hitler, he said, he would have had control of my life for the rest of my life. And when you let that go, forgiveness, Luca, is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for us. And I've done that. I've forgiven everybody that lied. I understand why they did. And I don't hold that against them, because they did what they felt was that they had to do at that time. But it's something they have to live on and live with, I should say, because they knew that they were putting an innocent person in jeopardy. And that has to be tough to live with. But I don't hope that they suffer or anything like that. Not at all. Like I said, they did what they needed to do at that moment in their lives. But I was able to do that because of what I heard from my clients who had been through hell. They lived through a living hell. I had it much, much easier than they did. So that's kind of the way I looked at things.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story with us.
I appreciate
it's
you
full
having
of
me here.
Resilience, and it's really impressive. So thank you so much. I do believe that this story will help so many people.
I hope so.
In
I
so
really
many
do.
ways. I want to do a series of very quick questions. So I would like you to answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. These are
Okay.
questions that I ask all of
right.
my guests. Let's do it. So if you could be anything or anyone in the world, what would you be?
If I could be anyone or be anyone or,
Be anyone or anything in the world, what would you be?
oh, wow, that's a good question. What would I want to be? I guess a bird, because I could go to, and just see different things from a different viewpoint. You
I
asked the
love
first,
that.
yeah, the first thing that came to my mind, corny as that sounds, that's what it
That's
is.
no, I love that. Oh my God, that no one ever said that. So I love that. Why not? A bird, fabulous. What are you manifesting right now?
Right now, I'm manifesting my life back. I'm manifesting how I can best help other people. And that's what I'm doing in my life, bringing that forward, getting to that point to do that. So that's what I'm doing right now.
What's your favorite quote, mantra, or affirmation?
The one that I had, I'm going to tell you what my favorite one is. The quote that I kept on my locker every single day that I was in prison was from the Bible, from Romans 8:28. And that quote is, that scripture is, all things come together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. And I looked at that every day, and that's my favorite one.
What are you inspired by?
I'm inspired by people that people that have overcome adversity. I'll tell you, the person or the people that inspire me the most are the single mothers that go out every day and work. And they've got their children at home and they don't know how they're going to raise them. They don't know how they're going to pay for sitters. They don't know where they're going to put them while they're working to be able to put food on the table. And they're in some lousy apartment that they can't even afford that and not have enough food in their cupboards to feed those kids, or the clothes to put on their backs without being hand-me-downs. That's what inspires me. A person like that inspires me because they are going through hell, but yet they're not staying in hell. They're going through it.
Shout out to
me.
all of the people that are facing adversities, single parents, single moms. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what inspires me.
Well done. 3 things you can't do without.
My faith in God is number one. I can't go on without that. Knowing that my family is safe, knowing that my family is healthy is number two, and that I can't live without is not having these people paid that lost all of this money. That bothers me more than anything in the world. I can't live with the fact of not paying these people. So I don't know if that answers that question, but that I can't live without knowing that I've got to pay these people back.
If you could speak to your child self, what would you say to him today?
Hey, kiddo, hold on tight because you got one hell of a ride going in front of you.
Last time you cried and why?
Last time I cried and why? Why did I cry? I'm more emotional since I've been in prison. I see that. And I know this sounds weird, if that's the word, but I become very emotional for all of the things that I see in life that are good. I know this sounds, again, I know how this is going to sound, but you want the truth. I love to look at the leaves on the tree. You're going to make me get emotional. I don't want to do that. But I look at the sky because I couldn't see it for so long. And I see the blue in the sky and the clouds. And I see a child in the store with their parents. And I realize how beautiful life really is. I told my son, we all are going to die someday. I said, I want you to play one song for me. And it's a song at that time. It's a song by Louis Armstrong that it's What a Beautiful World. It is such a beautiful song, and it's exactly how I feel.
Love that. Thank you. And what gives you joy?
Oh, wow. A lot of things give me joy. Being happy, just being happy, knowing that, that I'm moving things along, and I get a new client that I can help when I realize that I'm taking one step in front of the other. My joy really comes from within. It really, I find joy in many different things. Again, helping people, being able to do things again, being able to buy to buy food that before I couldn't afford. So I mean, but joy for me really is from within, and I realized that I didn't need all of the things that I did before. I take pleasure in a lot of other things that before I really did take for granted.
Thank you. I think this is really going to, I think a lot of people, we said this before, something similar with success. I think sometimes people, they think they will get joy or success or all these things. They come from something physical, from something materialistic. So something they can, hold and sell or show off, and from a guy that made so much money, and then lost everything. I think it's really important coming from you that what you just said, that you get joy from helping others, and from regular things, from within, from gratitude from every day, basically. Because it's not about the money, and people sometimes people that don't have money or never had money, they think money will give them joy. And this is not the case. This is not it. Of course, money is nice. Money can buy you a lot of things, but money is money. And it's not joy. Joy comes from within. Joy comes from noticing the small things every day. And it comes from helping other people. Do something that fulfills you. That I think that's very important. And I don't think I've had a guest that had the financial success that you had on this podcast yet. So I think when it comes from someone that actually had the money, it's more valuable, because you could have said money, you could have said it because you had it all. So I think a lot of people will can learn that. I'm sure they do, but when you don't have money, you always think that money will give you.
Yeah, money will do it. Luca, it's there was an analogy I heard many years ago, and I believe this wholeheartedly. There was a young monk, and he says to his abbot, how do I get wisdom? How do I become wise? And the abbot, who's in charge of the monastery, grabs a hold of this kid, brings him over to a bucket of water, and puts the kid's head in the water. And he's struggling. He's going to drown. He's trying to get out. Finally breaks free after a while, and breathing, catching his breath. And the abbot says to him, "When you want wisdom, as much as you wanted air, you'll get it." And that's true.
I like quotes. So
Quotes?
Yeah, I have some quotes in here.
Okay.
But I want you to pick one.
All right, that's good. Okay, go ahead.
Cool.
All right, go ahead.
Let's go.
Stop.
Oh, I have two. Okay, I get the one that was higher. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the plain instinct acting from the inner necessity. The creative mind plays with the object it loves. Carl Jung. Guy, before I let you go, please remind us how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, they can reach me at my email, which is guy@gainwisdom.com. That's
Perfect.
GUY@gainwisdom, GANE wisdom.com. And that's how you can get a hold of me.
Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom with us.
So meta.
Next on So Meta.
Hi, this is Marissa Zainab, and this is So Meta. 1 out of every 3 females in the UK and 1 out of every 4 to 5 men in the UK experience some form of domestic abuse in their life. That hit me hard. Denial stops you from growing and evolving. Once you accept things, as they are, that's where change happens.
I was expected to be not just perfect, but above perfection all of the time.
We do. Talk about issues nobody else wants to talk about. I feel really lucky to be alive. You know, lots of people don't survive. I reached a point 12 years ago where I kind of lost everything, right?
Yeah.
Didn't have a job, didn't have a house to live, literally had nothing. People need to understand this. Narcissistic abuse specifically, it causes brain injury.
So meta.